Okay, Nick here. It's 4:48 in the morning, and I'm looking at the moon. Still dark out, well before sunrise. The sun doesn't rise. We are turning. We are rotating towards the sun. The moon's not moving, and the sun's not moving. And the moon is pointing east and pointing in the downwards direction in my angle of view from the earth. Half the moon is always lit up by the sun. Anyways, let's zoom in on that moon. I only have a 20x zoom, so in the future I'll probably get a better zoom at some point. Anyway, so there's the moon, and it looks like it's pointing downwards, but the profile of the moon is not changing from my last video at 4:30 in the morning. Okay, the profile, the light signature does not change. My angular view to the moon changes, and it looks like it's pointing down, but it's really not. It's just pointing towards the sun. As we rotate towards the sun, that moon is going to straighten out during the morning and the daylight hours. Anyways, see you in a few. Okay, remember this? My model that shows how all this works. Okay, so there's the sun. Okay, and there's the moon. This is during the daylight hours. You'll see this later on. The only difference in this model is that we're pointing, our line of sight is pointing to the west. Okay, line of sight is pointing to the west. Okay, the line of sight when the sun is coming up or is to the east. Okay, notice that the east side of the moon this morning is pointing to the east, where the sun, instead of the west, is at our east. It's down here. It's down here. That's where the sun is right now. Okay, it's not up here. It's down here. As see how we're in darkness, and that sun, that sun is over here. The moon, see, it's opposite. So see how I have the lit side pointing to the west, and the dark side is pointing to the east because the sun's not over here. But today, this morning, this side of the moon, where I have it darkened, is actually lit, and the lit side of the moon is actually dark. See, it's opposite. Do you get it? That's east. All right, and that's west. Okay, but it's opposite. The colors, the lit side is opposite because the sun is down here. We're in darkness. It's still at nighttime. It's like very close. All right, sun up is 6:30 in the morning. All right, and the sun is over here. The moon is in this position, this light signature, but it's opposite. That's lit up and that's dark. This side is dark because the sun, as where we are turning towards, we're turning into the sun. Okay, but even though this one is pointing west, look where the moon is compared to us when it's close to the horizon line, our point of view to it. Okay, let's change our perspective. Okay, let's change our perspective. See, the lit side of the moon is still pointing to the sun. That moon hasn't changed. The sun hasn't changed. But where we are standing, when we're looking out at horizon, it looks like the moon is pointing down. Huh? Interesting, huh? how this shows how reality, what we see in the sky, happens. This is a true model that mirrors reality of what we see in the sky. See our line of sight? We can't see the sun because the sun's still down here. We haven't turned into this. If this was east, we'd be turning into the sun. If this was not the North Pole and it was the South Pole, this is what we would be seeing. The moon would appear like this, okay? And that would be looking east if this was the South Pole. So see how the moon looks like it's pointing down? It's not pointing down. It's all, the light signature is always pointing to the sun. And see that? That's you. That's that little dot there. You're in the darkness. It's dark out. Got it? Okay. I hope you got that. Okay, so now it's 5 a.m. in the morning. And there's the moon. Look at the profile of the moon. Look at the light signature of the moon. Still pointing east. It hasn't changed. If it was its own light, okay, the light profile would always change. But it's still pointing east. It's still pointing slightly downward. Less than before, I believe. Okay. And we're turning towards the sun. So we will see the sun soon. The sun doesn't move. The moon doesn't move. It's us turning. Okay? It's us turning. Okay, it's 5:13 in the morning. And we're going to zoom in on that moon. And it has moved its position in the sky. But guess what? The light signature stays the same. And it's a little less pointed downwards. Okay, it's 5:30 in the morning, and let's go take a look at our moon. Okay, there's the moon, and we're gonna zoom in on that moon. And zoom in, and look at that moon. Look at the signature. The light signature hasn't changed, and it's less pointing downwards. Okay, just as my model predicted, and it's still pointing east. It's pointing east towards the sun. Okay, and we're rotating towards the sun. That's how the sun, quote unquote, rises, but it doesn't rise at all. It doesn't move. Neither does the moon, and the only light on the moon that you're gonna see is the light pointing to the sun. It constantly, throughout our view of it, it continues its light signature and doesn't change. If it was its own light, right now, it shouldn't, there's no reason for that light signature to stay exactly as if it was pointing to the sun, if we could see the sun. Okay? It's pointing to the sun, and it follows my model perfectly. All right, it's 5:45 in the morning, and I'm in a little different parking lot, but there's the moon. Okay, and we're gonna zoom in. Zoom in. Zoom in. And there's the moon. Same light signature. It's still pointing east. And you notice that it's no longer, or just barely pointing downwards. It's not moving. The moon doesn't move. The sun doesn't move. We're rotating east. And the east side of the moon is still lit up. Okay, I don't know if you can see it, but when we turn, you can see, when you, let's zoom out, you can see that it's getting lighter over there to the east. That is the east. That's where the sun is. We're turning towards the sun. We're at that point of close to that dawn, and the globe earth predicts that we shall see the sun at around 6:35 in the morning. Okay, but let's look at the other side. Okay, let's look at the other side. Okay, it's dark. It's dark. That's pointing to the dark side of the earth, nighttime. Okay, and look at the moon. The moon on that side is dark. Look at that. Isn't that awesome? Isn't that great? Okay, the dark side of the earth and the dark side of the moon also match. What do you think of that? Okay, what do you think of that? This proves that the dark side of the moon matches the dark side of our planet, globe, Earth. Go figure. Okay, it's 6 a.m. Once again, it's February 19th, 2025, a follow-up video from yesterday showing the sun and the moon positions, and specifically showing that the light signature of the moon doesn't change just because it's dark out, and supposedly the sun cannot reach the moon. The moon is not its own light. The moon always, the light side of the moon always tracks the light of the sun. When the light is to the east of the moon, the sun is to the east of the moon. And when the light is to the west of the moon, from our perspective, the sun is to the west of the moon. Okay? The lit side of the moon always tracks the light of the sun. Now, if we look at that moon, look, it's a little different position. Look at that tree. Remember where the tree was before. Okay? And look at the moon. We're going to zoom into the moon. And look at the light signature of the moon. It hasn't changed from earlier this morning till now. And look over there to the east. Sorry about that. Look over there to the east. It's brighter. Isn't it a lot brighter? That's where the sun is. We're going to see the sun. Stop saying the sun rises. The sun doesn't move. You got to get out of that habit of saying the sun rises. The sun doesn't rise. Okay, the sun doesn't rise. And the moon doesn't move. Okay, it's us rotating towards the sun. We're rotating towards the sun. Okay. Let's look at that moon one more time at full zoom. Okay. The light signature has not changed. That's the purpose of this video, whether it's night or day. Okay. Yeah, we're putting it all together this morning at 6:15 in the AM. Okay. And the point of this video is to show that from night to day, the moon's light signature does not change. Okay, it doesn't change because of the fact that its only light is the light of the sun. If it changed, I'd say, yeah, maybe the moon is its own light. If it changes signature after dark, after no longer being in the same light time as the sun, that's it, same daytime, you can see them both in daylight. But when it gets dark, it will not change its light signature. just as is now, okay? 6:15 in the morning, and there's the sun. I'm sorry. Oh yeah, the sun is getting brighter. You can just see the glow. See, our line of sight is still, the earth is still blocking our line of sight to the sun, but you can see that glow. Okay, in about 20 minutes, we're gonna start to actually see the sun. The sun is going to peek out, but the sun doesn't move. We're turning on a globe earth towards the sun, towards the east, and there's the moon, and you're gonna see that light signature of that moon not change from much earlier when it was very dark out. Look, same light signature. It's still pointing east. It's not pointing, it doesn't look like it's pointing down anymore. And it fits my model perfectly. The one that I made, that model, it fits it perfectly. Okay. The only light of the moon is the light coming from the sun. The moon always tracks the light of the sun.